For weeks, I've been telling you to pay attention to what's building. And now we're entering a period that I believe deserves close monitoring. Solar activity has surged. Earth's magnetic field has been disrupted by a strong geomagnetic storm, and earthquakes continue occurring across major seismic zones worldwide. Based on the patterns I've been tracking, the next couple of weeks look especially active. Let's break it down. Over the past 24 hours, Earth was hit by a solar storm that developed into a strong G3 plus geomagnetic event. After the solar wind shifted into a strongly negative magnetic orientation. This came during a broader 2-week period of elevated solar activity. Starting around June 30th, multiple sunspot regions became highly active, producing dozens of M-class flares and several X-class flares. Around the same time, a sun-grazing comet passed into the sun, which I noted mainly because it coincides with the sharp increase in flare activity. As things escalated, another X-class flare erupted from a new sunspot rotating into view, triggering an R3 radio blackout over parts of the Pacific. With more active regions still turning toward Earth, I expect continued elevated solar activity over the next couple of weeks. At the same time, a large coronal hole is rotating into an Earth-facing position. These regions release high-speed solar wind streams, and in my analysis, they consistently line up with periods of increased geomagnetic and seismic activity. This stream is expected to become geo-effective within about 5 to 6 days, placing the window from July 9th through July 14th at the center of attention. Looking back, I also tracked several major earthquakes that occurred during similar conditions, including the magnitude 7.8 event in the Philippines, along with significant earthquakes in Venezuela and Japan. All of these occurred during periods influenced by high-speed solar wind streams. I'm not saying causation is proven. What I am saying is that the timing overlaps repeatedly enough that I consider it worth tracking. What makes the current situation notable is the multiple factors are stacking at once. Earth is still responding to recent geomagnetic disturbances, while additional solar energy continues feeding into the upper atmosphere. We've already seen widespread auroras and rare red sprites showing how much electrical energy is present in the system right now. Solar wind speeds have exceeded 600 kilometers per hour, and Earth's magnetic field has been fluctuating significantly. On top of this, I also look at broader astronomical alignments occurring at the same time, including a Mars-Uranus conjunction and a wider configuration involving Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto, along with Mercury's retrograde cycle and an approaching new moon. While these are not recognized by mainstream science as drivers of seismic activity, I include them because of their timing alongside elevated solar and geophysical conditions. Taken together, this creates what I consider an unusually active window building toward mid-July. The period I'm focused on most closely is July 9th through July 14th, when the incoming coronal hole stream is expected to fully interact with Earth's magnetic field. In my analysis, these streams have repeatedly aligned with periods of elevated seismic activity. I'm not claiming a guaranteed trigger, only that the timing patterns are consistent enough that I watch them closely. Looking back to early June, the magnitude 7.8 earthquake in the Philippines occurred during a high-speed solar wind period. Around the same general time frame, we also saw major earthquakes in Venezuela and Japan. These events clustered during increased solar wind velocity. What I consistently observe is that seismic responses don't always happen immediately. Sometimes they overlap with geomagnetic disturbances. Sometimes they follow hours or days later, and sometimes nothing significant follows at all. But the clustering during certain solar conditions is what I track. Right now, the Western Pacific Ring of Fire is my main focus. Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Kamchatka, and Taiwan continue to show frequent seismic activity and remain the most sensitive regions during these cycles. We've also recently seen magnitude 6 earthquakes filling gaps between active zones, which in my interpretation can reflect stress distribution across connected fault systems. Outside the Western Pacific, I'm also watching Colombia, Central America, California, and parts of the Caribbean. Large earthquakes can shift stress into surrounding regions, though the timing of any response is unpredictable. On the space weather side, Earth is still recovering from the recent geomagnetic storm, while additional active sunspot regions continue rotating into view. That means the background solar environment remains elevated. When combined with the approaching coronal hole stream, I see a short window where solar wind pressure and geomagnetic variability could increase again. I also factor in the broader planetary configuration occurring at the same time, including the Mars-Uranus conjunction, and alignments involving Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto, while not causally supporting in mainstream geophysics. I track them as part of a broader timing comparison framework. To be clear, I'm not predicting a major earthquake. What I am saying is that multiple indicators I monitor are converging into a relatively short window, and historically, similar conditions have sometimes aligned with increased geological activity. Because of that, I consider the next 1 to 2 weeks a period worth paying attention to. If you've made it this far, you already understand the point of tracking patterns like this. Isn't certainty, it's awareness. Some people see coincidence, others see structure. My approach is simply to track the data, compare it to past cycles, and highlight when multiple systems begin aligning at the same time. So I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Are these overlaps meaningful or just normal noise in a chaotic system? If this helped you understand what's unfolding, don't just move on. Like the video, save it so you can revisit it during this window, and share it with someone who follows earth science or space weather. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because updates like this only matter if you see them while they're happening. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Stay aware, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Till next time, remember, we're all in this together, fam. One love.